Welcome to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, an establishment that's been around for decades, attracting people, thousands of people every summer. Home of the Giant Dipper, the oldest roller coaster on the West Coast, and one of the most famous, actually, in all of America. Let me ask you a question. What's your favorite attraction at the boardwalk? My daughter's is that parachute ride. I don't even know what it's called. They love that thing. Let me ask you a different question. What do you think is the least used attraction on the whole boardwalk? Would it be the Ferris wheel? Merry-go-round? Well, I bet none of you would get the answer, because the least used attraction on the whole boardwalk is this one, the foot washing station. So let me ask you a question. How would you show people that you love them if you couldn't use your words? That was a challenge Jesus faced. He could use his words, but he wanted to show the full extent of his love. And in John chapter 13, the Bible talks about what he did. He washed feet. We're going to look at that tonight as we gather in our community groups. But before we do, let me tell you about another true story. It's the story of a man of God who wanted to show a marginalized people the full extent of his love. In the late 1800s in Hawaii, when people got leprosy, they were banished to an island called Molokai. It's off the coast of Maui. And Father Damien felt the call to go minister to the least of these and minister to the lepers off the coast of Molokai. Look at this clip from a movie that displays that call and the advice he got when he was going to minister to them. Watch this.
Don't forget, you are not to touch any patient and eat nothing that you haven't prepared yourself. Are you ready, Father? Yeah. God go with you, my son. I'll have you back in Honolulu within a month. I promise. Now remember, don't touch anyone.
Father.
Hello.
Could I be your altar boy? In my village, I was one.
Yeah, that would be a wonderful help.
I wouldn't have to touch the chalice or anything.
No.
Should I come tomorrow?
Yeah. Wait. Let's agree. Formally.
In a worldly sense, something tragic happened. But how many of us know that what people call a tragedy, God uses in great ways? Father Damien got leprosy. And it was when he got leprosy that a revival broke out in that leper colony. And many of the lepers, after seeing him get leprosy, gave their lives to Jesus Christ. Truly, he incarnated Christ to the people and lived among them. That's why we're doing Beautiful Day. So we can show the city and the peninsula, your neighbors, my neighbors, that we love them. Our talk is cheap, but our actions speak much louder than our words. Well, that leads us to John 13. So open your Bibles to John 13, and let me just pull some things out that you can discuss as a group, okay? So in John 13, Jesus knew where he was headed. I don't think the disciples did. And he wanted to leave one lasting impression on them, one lasting mandate from the master teacher to the student. And so rather than teach it with his words, he taught it through action. It says this: it was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he now showed them the full extent of his love. That's a great verse for us who are in relationships, whether it be with kids, as our own children, or husband, wife, or roommates, or whatever. That if we love people, to show them the full extent of our love, we need to serve them. How are you doing serving your family? How are you doing serving your spouse? How are you doing serving your neighbors? I ask that question all the time as a pastor. How are we doing serving the peninsula that God has called us to reach with the love of Christ? We can speak God's love, but the message is so more effective if we show it. It goes on. The evening meal was being served. The devil had already prompted Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, that he'd come from God and is returning to God. And this is critical when it comes to serving. You've got to be secure in your identity. Jesus knew that if he was going to wash feet, it wouldn't belittle him because he didn't care what people thought of him. He cared what God thought of him. He knew he'd come from God, he'd been given authority, and he was returning to God. Do you? Are you secure in what the Father says of you? Is that the voice you look for to secure and define who you are? Or are you serving others and their voice to build up your identity? That's critical. As we go serve people, nothing is beneath us because God made us known. God made known that we are his children, his beloved children.